Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. My name is Nazir Ahmad. I am from Pakistan. I am showing you in this video about some cakes, cookies, and some other snack items. This shop name is Cookie ID. The shop is located in Yogyakarta city. The city is called City of Students and City of Sweet Foods.
Pengen sih trading, tapi market saham masih labil. Jangan sedih, mending cobain trading forex di MIFX. Bingung trading apa? Cek trading signal aja. Dan modal tradingnya cuma 500.000 aja loh. Yuk buka akun MIFX sekarang.
Dia terus lebih baik seperti itu. Gold itu sebenarnya mirip-mirip dengan saham ya. Saham itu dia selalu arahnya itu ke atas ya. Kalau dia turun itu cuma koreksi doang, tapi arahnya itu lebih ke atas. Oke ya teman-teman. Oke. Silakan kalau ada yang mau bertanya ya teman-teman. Oke, ini ada dari Rosita Dewi. Rosita Dewi, gold sudah masuk area Vibo 0.30. Yang berarti area partisipasi instrumen kemungkinan akan stuck di 19.38. Dan akan melakukan konsolidasi lagi sampai besok ya, masuk akal ya, masuk akal. Apa namanya, skenario nya masuk akal ya. Nanti kalau saya akan ada sinyal lagi, nanti pasti saya akan posting lagi begitu ya. Oke, terima kasih ya Ibu Rosita Dewi untuk analisanya. Terima kasih. Oh ya, buat ini Pak Karnadi juga, buat Pak Muhammad Selamat, kalau mau share chart
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Nazir Ahmad and I am from Pakistan. Today we will learn about 12 tips for students who wish to write and publish. These tips have been written by Rajai K. Sharma and Harriet L. Ogle. They have affiliation with University of Exeter Medical School, Exeter, UK. Summary: stepping into the world of research can be an overwhelming task, especially for those with relatively little experience, such as medical students or science students. This article This article aims to provide students with tips for writing and publishing in all fields. The 12 tips are as follows. Find your why. Play to your strength and be realistic. Be well read. Revisit missed opportunities. Talk to the experts around you. Broaden your horizon. Get to grips with the submission process. Why? Pay attention to the details. Remember that submission is not the end. The process cannot be rushed. Consider the alternative paths to presenting research. Start writing. This writing is derived from personal experience with supporting evidence and is not designed to be encyclopedically, simply a reference to help students alleviate any concerns and begin their own journey into the world of research. These 12 tips are written for medical science students as an introduction to the world of research and publishing. They aim to clear up many of the inaccurate assumptions of how difficult publishing is and provide a clear guide for students to begin their own writing journeys. Tip number 1: find your why. There are many different reasons for students to get involved with research. Learning about research and developing the associated skills of critical appraisal and writing are all skills thought to result in better professionals across the workforce. It is important to underscore the value of research and publication at every level of a scientific career. At every stage in your career, dedication and involvement with research is desired. For some positions, it is essential. This work also goes beyond the country or scientific or clinical system of origin. Research and publications have global reach and relevance in healthcare. The benefits of early involvement will be realized at every stage of your career and will likely be hugely influential in your path. These basic things can range from passion about a certain theme or inspiration from a clinical placement through to raising an important query from some journal reading. Any reason can be reason enough, but being mindful of your own personal drivers will only help to improve your efforts. In finding your why, you will have a base upon which to build an entire knowledge bank over time. Tip number 2: play to your strengths and be realistic. A little bit of thought and planning at this stage will create a much friendlier introduction to research. Take a little time to reflect and think about the skills or interests you have that may translate into research work. This could be an old fondness of maths and statistics, strong analytical skills, or even an innate passion for any particular field of medicine. Tip number three, be well read. In order to produce research, you have to read research. This should not be a chore. There are thousands of medical journals to choose from. If you have already started to consider what you personally may enjoy, have a look around. There is much more out there than you may realize. University provided access means that the amount of research available at your fingertips is astonishing. Now that you are finding and reading papers of interest, be analytical. These are skills that are easily developed but only with practice. Tip number four, revisit missed opportunities. Across the world, there is an increasing emphasis on the role of research in medical science education. One example of this is some American universities now have guided modules covering all aspects of research from developing the research plan through to ethics approval, completion, and presentation. In other countries, such as the UK and Australia, medical science schools are expected to encourage student participation in research, but it is not mandatory. They do, however, need to equip students with the skills to navigate the world of research and critically appraise evidence presented to them in order to become more experts. Tip number five, talk to the experts around you. As a student, you are meeting new experts all the time. Has there been a single one that you have had a great experience with? Has there been a lecturer, many of whom dabble in research too, who is particularly approachable or in a specialty that you love? This should not be restricted to the most senior professionals. Tip number six, broaden your horizon. When approaching publishing for the first time, it is easy to become solely focused on research papers and ways in which to participate with teams of researchers or large projects. In reality, this is only one aspect of literature, and by delving into the world of research and becoming more well read, the variety of publications and types of writing will quickly become apparent. In broad terms, this range includes original research, review articles, clinical trials, clinical case studies, and opinion pieces. As alluded to previously, the opinion pieces areas of literature including perspectives, commentaries, and letters can be an ideal place to begin as a student. It means that work can be done individually or with a small team and is often quicker to action relatively to large works. It also enables critical analysis to be demonstrated in a public forum. There isn't a better way to develop these skills. Tip number seven, get to grips with the submission process early. Choosing a journal is not always a simple task, and finding an experienced mentor can be extremely helpful here, whether it be the co author, supervisors, or a librarian. Guidance as to which journal to apply is vital. Journals often receive for higher levels of submissions than can be accepted, Making informed choices is of a huge benefit for all parties involved. Tip number 8, pay attention to the details. This tip aims to draw attention to all the minute queries that can arise and things to look out for when submitting to your chosen journal. DOI. This is a digital object identifier that is unique and attributed to an online document. It is important as it is a permanent link, whereas URLs can change. You should keep a record of the DOIs for every publication you ever have, and is usually the easiest way for others to verify your list of publications. Indexing. Databases such as PubMed don't simply score the web for all scientific content. Journals have to be indexed by a secondary service such as Medline in order to show up in these search engines. Many journals obviously but there are thousands more that either aren't indexed or indexed by other services. Hence, don't limit your searching to one place. The further you look, the more resources you will find. For your CV, this is not an important factor. The DOI is, but it can be for certain applications. For example, the foundation program in the UK requires the publication to have a PubMed ID before they can be counted towards the application. Declaration of interest funding, an easily overlooked checkpoint that is usually required before an article can be considered. This can vary from a single line of text on the cover page to a whole separate form. You may not have any conflict of interest or funding, but make sure you confirm whether any of your collaborators do before submission. Article processing charges. This is an important consideration for all authors, but especially students. Due to running cost, many journals do not charge submission fee but do charge APCs if the works are accepted. They can often be over €2,000 as medical students don't often have access to funding. It is another option, early consideration before submission, as it would be incredibly disappointing to be accepted only to then find out there is an APC that you cannot meet. This is just one of the many benefits of seeking pre-submission guidance. See tip number 7. Many journals have various criteria for waiving the fee. This would be assessed on a case-by-case basis. If the work is with senior academics, then they may have access to institution funding, especially specifically for APC. Open access. Aside from the high impact journals, many do not publish fully open access. This means that all or some degree of content is hidden behind a paywall. This can often be overlooked as medical students often have institutional access through their university. Despite this, open access should be an important consideration as making works open access can lead to APCs, but without it, the exposure of work is reduced. Tip number 9. Remember that submission is not the end. It is relatively uncommon for any journal submission to be accepted without any revision. There are four decisions that can be given. These are acceptance, minor revisions, major revisions, and rejection. Acceptance is obviously the ideal. Minor revisions are common and still very positive. Sometimes this can be a provisional acceptance pending certain changes that the editors and reviewers will request. Major revisions mean that the editors still feel the article may be suitable for their journal, but the reviewers have highlighted many serious issues that need addressing. Sometimes this is not always possible, and so you may need to have a dialogue with the editors. Rejection is obviously the most disappointing as there is no further recourse. Appeals are very unlikely to succeed. It is not uncommon, and any author should be completely aware of this reality. Some journals report rejection rates of as high as 90 to 95%, but don't lose hope. Depending on the details of the work, it can often be resubmitted elsewhere. In fact, it is reported that 62% of medical teacher 363 articles accepted have been rejected elsewhere. It is good practice to aim high and have several suitable journals in mind for each article. The feedback, even if rejected, can be incredibly helpful, and sometimes editors will suggest partner journals that would be better suited to the work. Tip number 10: the process cannot be rushed. This can sometimes be a surprise when newly venturing into research. Things take time. It's not only the writing of an article that can be time consuming. Once submitted, it can be days before the paper is assessed by an editor and many weeks before a first reply is received. There is some relativity between the size and scope of an article and the time frames, but essentially don't ever expect quick turnarounds. This is one of the reasons why it plays to have plans as to what to do if the work is rejected, as it can be difficult to return to an article many weeks after the fact. Also, it is something to consider if the piece of work is relatively time sensitive. Tip number 11: consider the consider the alternative paths to presenting research. It is important to highlight the importance of other scientific modalities. A full paper is incredibly time consuming and can have relatively poor success rates. However, the vast proportion of research projects can be presented as scientific posters. If you have collaborated on a research project that has been submitted or hasn't, always consider how else it can be used and what other outputs are possible. Work that never results in a publication can still often result in presentations at, at relevant conferences. Both oral and poster presentations usually require the submission of an abstract. Thus, they are widely accessible as the final presentation must only be finalized if and when accepted. Tip number 12: start writing. This is the last tip. If nothing so far has appealed to you, or you are just eager to get started right now and not take time to find some helpful supervisors, you can always take a leap and pursue an original concept. Even this doesn't mean you have to do everything single handedly. By having those all important discussions, you may be able to find one or more peers who you can collaborate with. There are many article formats that are perfectly suited to student authors. This doesn't have to be a dive into the deep. Smaller pieces may really help to uh, whet your appetite and develop key writing skills or interests. Conclusion: this presentation provides evidence-based tips on all steps of research from preparation to submission and aims to provide guidance to ensure that delving into the world of research and publication does not have to be as daunting as it first seems. To link to this article, go through this link as you can see on the screen. Thank you very much for watching my presentation. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and press the bell icon button. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nazir Ahmed and I am from Pakistan. Today we will learn about 12 tips for getting your manuscript published. These tips have been written by David A. Cook. He has affiliation with Mayo Clinic Online Learning USA and Mayo Clinic College of Medicine USA. Okay, let's start our presentation. Scholarly writing and research reporting are increasingly common in all areas of medicine, not least in health professions education. A junior first author would ideally implement scientific tips in collaboration with an experienced mentor.